If you hear me!
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Holla If You Hear Me's roundtable episode for this week, and once again, it's not really much of a roundtable. It's me, AndiNero, the kayfabe assassin, and it's Dirty Dave, the ring historian. Again, not really much of a roundtable, more like a straight table. So, to buck normal traditions, what we're going to do is me and Dave are going to go head to head. We're going to go icon for icon. It's Bret. It's Shawn. Who really is number one? We've each picked 5 of our favourite moments from each of those careers, and we're going to discuss why we feel our man is the big man himself, the number one, the big cheese, the big dog. Of course, this is actually just a debate for you guys to decide, so please drop your decision, drop your choice in the comment below. Leave a like, drop a share, do a subscribe. There's loads of other cliche things I can say about this bloody platform, but do them all for us, will ya? And like I said, drop a comment there and let us know who you think is the bigger icon. It's Bret and it's Shawn. Dave, how long did you spend trying to find something to do with Bret? I'm pretty sure you probably didn't spend very long.
I no. So I've made bullet points, and you'll be far more articulate and knowledgeable than me, and that's fine. My argument is probably going to be somewhat too passionate and stuttery, but it's so difficult, I thought, to. So for people who don't know, and no one knows yet, we kind of agreed that we'd go 5 facts each, or five things each on each person. Otherwise, we could be here forever, which is not a bad thing. But YouTube might kick us off. And it's so hard. What do you do? Do you pick 5 matches? Do you pick 5 instances? Do you pick 5 storylines? Do you pick, what is it? So I've got a bit of a mix of just things I specifically liked about Bret or his character at certain times. There's obviously some bits in there about some matches. I've varied it up a little bit. And this is really hard for me because, well, I'll say at the end. But yeah, this is really, really difficult.
I, on the other hand, have gone quite literally for just 5 separate programs from Shawn Michaels' career that I think point to the fact that he is the best of all time. In terms of these 2 particular opponents, I've famously made no beans about the fact that I don't think Bret is the greatest of all time. I have changed my perspective on that. I still don't think he's the greatest of all time. I just think he's a little bit better than I originally intended or assumed. But I still think he's a long way behind Shawn, and these are 5 reasons and 5 packages, 5 matches, 5 programs that he had that I think point to that point, allude to that point, should we say. I'm getting my words mixed up because I haven't rehearsed this. We're going to go with it. Fuck it.
We're unscripted,
Right.
unfiltered,
Unfiltered
unedited,
and uninformed. That's us.
uninformed,
right, okay.
yeah. Uneducated.
Uneducated. Right then, Davey, why don't you kick us off with your first point, and then I will rebuttal.
Okay, so one of the first things that popped into my head when I thought about Bret is this crazy soap opera world of wrestling that we all love. And for me, I'm 42, and I'm still talking about wrestling. So I started watching in 1987. Larger than life, Hulk Hogan Andres, colours, loud musics, all this kind of stuff. And there was a tag team that just caught my attention wearing bright pink at the time, the Hart Foundation. And there was just something really real about Bret. And it's an interesting one because I remember listening to the commentary by Gorilla Monsoon saying about is the excellence of execution. And this is like WrestleMania 3, WrestleMania 4. Look at the execution on that backbreaker. Look at the execution on that neckbreaker. And Jesse Ventura going, well, nobody does a backbreaker like Bret Hart. And I remember sitting there going, this is an opening tag match guy. This isn't Hogan. This isn't Savage. This isn't the big main event. And this, they really love this guy. And at that point, the Hart Foundation were losing a lot. So it sort of piqued a bit of interest. And a slightly more modern version, and I won't go too far off on this, was when Cody Rhodes first came in. Got a lot of stick for being small, didn't quite have the right look, was sort of struggling to find himself. But one of the things I always thought was really good with Cody is he could throw a really good punch, he could take a really good move, and he could deliver a really good move. You know, he's excellent. And that's why I've always liked Cody, even when it wasn't fashionable to. So I just really like that real grittiness, where you go, okay, I'm 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. I'm here for the big match. I'm here for my big He-Man Hulk Hogan to save the day and beat Earthquake. But I was just enthralled by these Heart Foundation matches and how the commentators just got behind them and loved them. So yeah, that was my first reason for falling in love with Bret.
Fair. I think if my understanding is correct, what you're trying to say is that you associated Bret Hart with not necessarily the everyman, but someone who could quite literally be someone you met on the street. Someone who's not a giant, a huge personality like Hulk Hogan, or an enormity of humanity like Andre, but just really crisp, really good, and just a regular looking dude.
And to add a sense of reality, you know, to this soap opera. So Hogan's flamboyant, you know, flapping his hand, dropping a leg. But watching Bret do a backbreaker, or an elbow, or an arm bar, or an arm drag, you're like,
looked legit.
That's wrestling. That's like, oh my god, technicality. Yeah, I just thought, Jesus, that's incredible. So yeah.
Cool. So, excellent, perfect, loved it. My first program that I will mention is arguably from around about, not from the same time. I'm obviously a little younger than yourself and Fraz. I was born in '87, so I didn't really get a chance to see much of really early Bret at the time. My first experience of Bret was SummerSlam '92. At the same time was my experience with Shawn Michaels in his match with Rick the Model Martel. But the first really iconic match that I can think of with Shawn was the ladder match at WrestleMania 10. When I say I'm bringing programs to the situation, I mean the promo work in advance, the video packages they put together highlighting these two guys, and the match quality itself, and the legacy the match had following. Obviously, the first, I believe, televised or pay-per-view ladder match held within WWE at the time, or WWF at the time.
Yep.
And for the undisputed Intercontinental Championship. Huge program leading into New York. Massive. And not only that, but you had Shawn doing exactly what Shawn was supposed to be doing at that time, being the flamboyant, being the obnoxious earrings, being the mullet and the cool and the hearts on the pants, and having Diesel there as his backup, and he was just a shithouse king. But in the ring, unbelievable. I mean, yes, it always helps that he wasn't wrestling a mannequin doll. You know, Razor could definitely hold his own, but Shawn was amazing in that match, and to me, that match was one of the most iconic and one of the most memorable ladder matches I've ever seen. And, you know, I go back and I watch things like TLCs and ladder matches of the past, and I still point to the fact that the ladder match against Razor, the ladder wasn't really involved that much. It wasn't like the Jeff Hardy style sort of thing. It was mainly just used as a weapon, and then, oh yeah, by the way, you're supposed to climb up and get the dials, rather than constantly having the slow crawl and this, that, and the other. But yeah, that's my reasoning for including WrestleMania 10 on my list as number one.
I mean, it's so difficult to argue that. I mean, you're right that half the match didn't have the ladder in it, and half the match did. That was the point, because you had to go and get the ladder. Interesting take. That's the first time Shawn wore the trousers with the hearts on at WrestleMania 10. Before that, he'd wore like different smudgy style ones, and
he had like zebras and stuff on, didn't he?
Yeah, all kind of weird. Yeah,
and stuff.
That's it. And of course, it was the undisputed Intercontinental title. But of course, there's a reason for that, Andy. And as much as I love Shawn Michaels and I love that match, he failed a drug test, and stayed at home and refused to send the
We're trying to
Intercontinental.
talk about that bit.
He refused to send the Intercontinental title back, so they had to make a new one and give it to Razor. But hey, it worked out, and yeah, what a program! You can't take anything away from that. I remember watching WrestleMania 10. I sat around my friends, 2 houses away from where I am now, and we sat and watched it. And
How ironic, though, that out of the 2 people, Shawn was the one that failed a drug test.
It's almost like he'd upset people for 6 months solidly, and they wanted to give him a little holiday.
Yeah, something like that. He had a few in his time, didn't he?
But, yeah. No, mate, I can't take anything away from that. It's a great match. I remember watching it. I was like 11, 12. Sat 2 living rooms away from where I am now with my best mate at the time, and we were just like, oh my god, didn't think anything could top the Owen Hart Bret match. Well, obviously, Doink and Dink versus Bam Bam and Luna, but
I mean, a lot of people say that it didn't top the opening match. I mean, a lot of people say that Owen and Bret match is probably one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, and I don't disagree. It's a very, very, very good match. But
I would say it's one of the best opening WrestleMania matches, and yeah, it's definitely up there. But they're different. They're different. This is I think a classic example of where it's difficult to argue who's better, because you go and watch the Bret Owen match, very real, gritty brother match where, you know, actually even at some points they're pulling each other's hair. It's almost like a school fight in the playground, but really technical and fantastic. And then of course you've got the showmanship of the ladder match and the glamour of Shawn Michaels. 2 very different styles. You know, it's brown bread versus white bread. You know, they're the same but they're different. But no, mate, I'm with you on that. Shall I hit you with my second sort of thing?
you can, or we can rotate. It's entirely up to you. I think you should go. No, you sure?
Okay. Well, mine's
so. If we're looking chronologically, my next point would be a SummerSlam match, and again, we're talking about the whole program, the build, the promo work in between, and the match itself. And I'm going to mention the SummerSlam 2002 Street Fight match between Shawn and Triple H. Obviously, this is Shawn's first match back since the spring of 1998, when he lost the title to Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania, went away and had back surgery, and then stayed gone for the best part of 4 years. Yes, he had intermittent moments where he'd come back as the commissioner or a special guest referee, or he'd just drunkenly turn up at WWF New York during Armageddon to do a bit of an interview segment, which nobody really remembers, but is so mental. So I'm really like there with a big beard here. I'm digressing. He comes back with NWO. It's a complete flop, but he starts to get the flavour, and you can tell he's shucking and jiving, and he's feeling a little bit more limber in himself, and he feels like he wants to get back in the ring. So what does he do? He turns to his best friend and someone who has been there for him throughout his entire career, even through the dark times, and he turns to Triple H and says, let's do something. They reform DX, famously, on the Monday Night Raw episode, where it ends with Triple H kicking Shawn in the dick and then dropping him with a pedigree. Following that, you have the car park, or the parking garage attack, and the unveiling that it was in fact Triple H. It was you, Hunter. And Hunter's response of "You're damn right it was me" is great.
Right,
You're goddamn right it was me.
And his white t-shirt.
Yeah.
His white Triple H t-shirt.
And I don't know if it's then or if it's later or if it was the lead up to the Elimination Chamber match, but he coined the phrase "Don't hunt what you can't kill," and that really stuck with me even today. I always remember that phrase. Anyway, the street fight itself, phenomenal. Booked in the ring, move by move pretty much by Hunter, just as a way of letting Shawn feel his way back into the business, feel his way back into the competition. But Shawn was there delivering move after move, moment after moment, and it was just phenomenal. I remember watching it and thinking, oh my god, I've not seen this guy wrestle in 5 years, and he doesn't look like he's missed a step. If anything, he looks even fucking better. How is that even possible? You know, and go through all that he went through with the drugs and the finding Christ and everything else, and then to come back and be like, I am fucking back. And then obviously the sledgehammer bit was just amazing. It was so cool. So cool. Yep. And started what I feel is Shawn's better half of his career, personally. I think his second
overall,
half of his career was significantly better. But yeah, there you go. SummerSlam 2002, Street Fight versus Triple H.
Oh, I'd take that. 100% emotionally, exactly the same. Goosebumps when his music hit. Sat there, couldn't believe it was even happening. And then, Jesus Christ, what a match. Yeah, I mean, cannot argue at all. Fantastic match. Totally see where you're coming from. Loved it. Because I love Shawn as well. No buts. Great match. Loved it. But I was a Triple H fan when Michaels went off and got injured. And then when he came back, it was like, oh, sugar. Who do I root for? But obviously, it's Shawn Michaels. So yeah, that was cool. No, it was good. No, I love that, Andy. Completely agree. Can't take anything away from that, mate. It's really difficult. It's Shawn and Bret, so we're gonna agree more than we disagree. This
is why I chose this week to do this, because normally the person that decides this argument between me and you is always Fraz, and he always comes down on Bret because he hates Shawn Michaels' second half of his career.
Oh, he hates, what's he called?
He prefers
God
Shawn
boy.
As he calls him God Boy. He thinks Shawn as the shithousing dickhead drug user, user and abuser with his sunny days, is better than God Boy. And it's just like, but hey, this is why we're doing it this week.
That's why we're doing it this week. Yep.
The cat's away and the mice are going to play.
My sort of second point about Bret follows on from the first one, really. So I sort of said that, I like that reality. I liked listening to the commentators really describe the moves and not talk about this big story and not talk about these big personalities. They really got invested in the moves and how good Bret made the moves look. Taking that sternum first to the turnbuckle like no one else ever sort of did. Maybe Owen could do it pretty well. But they also sewed in this reality that I mentioned earlier, and it's like another part of that reality for me he's the first sort of person who ever really spoke about family, and the commentators built this legend of the Hart family in Canada and the Stu Hart and the dungeon. It was always, he learnt that off his old man, or do you think his old man taught him that? And Jesse Ventura asking if Gorilla's ever been to the dungeon, and this mystique about, okay, this guy has been trained by someone that you can tell everybody respects. Because back in those days, all the commentators were former wrestlers. Gorilla Monsoon's a former wrestler, Jesse Ventura's a former wrestler, Bobby Heenan was a manager. So as a kid, you're like, well, they know what they're talking about. It's like now when you watch football and you've got ex-footballers commentating, you're like, okay, well, kind of, as a ballpoint, I'll take that as a point of reference because you should know what you're talking about. So again, add into that reality, building this legend of this guy. And I, again, as a kid, I was just enthralled. I was like, why are they putting so much effort into this guy in this tag team? They don't, they sell all the other tag teams. Of course they do. The Rockers, everybody else. But this just, there was this real personal connection it seemed like they had with Bret. And obviously that sort of stems from the Hart Dungeon. And that links into Bret working from bottom to top. And it's not saying that Michaels didn't by any stretch, but, for me, that reality, that story, and that respect that you got from the commentators for Bret in those really early matches, working those bottom matches, really made everything feel more when Bret won. Because you're like, underdog, real guy, smaller guy, comes from tradition, comes from that like I say, that inherent respect. And I just really liked it. I just found it an intriguing story for someone that's not the big flamboyant person on the show. So that's just another part of like what helped me get into liking Bret Hart, was that family respect, working from bottom to top.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot. Is there, because obviously I'm specifically talking about matches and programs that I think point to my point.
Oh, I've got loads later, don't worry.
Are there any that, for your first 2 points, would personify matches specifically. So you can use, for your first one, you could use the Hart Foundation versus whoever, and then for your second one, if you wanted to use, you could use the family aspect where it was Stadium Stampede, whatever it was called.
I can give you, yeah, right now. So
like
the
specific matches that perhaps lend themselves to your
Yeah.
point, so it doesn't
So
just feel like I'm just saying matches and you're
no, that's fine. Okay, yeah. So they're not key matches in his career, but they're key points
Okay.
to make me think those things. So
To
SummerSlam,
you, yeah.
SummerSlam '88, Heart Foundation versus Demolition. Heart Foundation
Perfect.
lost that tag match. They won the rematch in 1990, but '88 they lost. Superstar Billy Graham is on commentary with Gorilla Monsoon. Just go and watch the match and just listen to how they talk about Bret Hart. He's in there with two 300-pound monsters in Demolition. You know, anytime, you know, in Survivor Series '88, a couple of months later, you know, the same commentators are saying how, oh, this is bad news for the Rockers, and you know, Paul Roma was in a tag team, the Young Stallions. When these small guys get in a ring with people like Demolition or the Powers of Pain, they just can't hang. There's no comment like that about Bret.
No.
Bret gets in the match, and they're just like, you know, oh,
Bigging him up.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what he does, so it's like, so it was just different to hear them talk like that. And then for the second one, the sort of traditional, so this was really cool. Survivor Series '89, the Hart Foundation split up. Not like they didn't have a split up, but they had intermittent single runs where they still kept the same music, still kept the same gear, but they'd do 6 months apart. And Bret was in a Survivor Series tag match. I think it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ronnie Garvin, Bret Hart, someone else, I can't remember. And they were against the King's Court, which was Randy Savage, King Randy Savage, Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and the Honky Tonk Man, I think, or someone. Oh, God, I can't remember. Might have been Rick Martel. Anyway, and Bret gets tagged in when Savage is in, and the whole place goes nuts. And Monsoon and Ventura go crazy. And I remember as a kid, so 1989 we're talking about, WrestleMania, we're building to WrestleMania 6. So the year of WrestleMania 5, Savage has just been the champion for a year. He's now the king. Bret is in a tag team that's fizzled out. They've lost the tag titles, they've lost their rematches, and they've sort of split up again. The place goes nuts. And Jesse Ventura's like, oh, I've been waiting for this. This is going to be fantastic. And they're in the ring for about 5 minutes. They get tagged in a couple of times. And it's just magic. And you're just like, well, why does anyone care? Why does anyone care that one guy from a tag team is in there with the king? If anything, it makes Randy Savage look bad, doesn't it? Because it's like he's been beaten up by this weakling from the tag team. But that's not how they sold. That's not how they sold it. And as a kid, I was like, I don't get that. Like, okay, so I must. There's got to be something. If these guys are telling me there's something, so I need to be invested, and they got me invested.
They elevated Bret to the level of king without him even being anywhere near the Intercontinental or World title scene.
No, it's miles away, and he just lost. He lost that match. He used to lose all the time. So, as did the Rockers. So again, it's not a. I'm not saying he's done it better, or I'm just giving you my examples and my reasoning between what got me to be the Bret Hart guy that I am.
Excellent. Nice. I respect it, mate. It's really, really cool. Really cool.
Do you want me to go again?
Yeah, by all means. We'll
And then
keep rotating like this.
Yeah, so, again, if we follow on from that, Bret was the smallest WWF champion when he won the title in 1993, 234 pounds. And let's be fair, WWE lies about weight. But he wasn't on the steroids. So even Randy Savage, when he was champ, he was bulked up a little bit. Potentially, allegedly, had some assistance from Hulk Hogan, of someone who used to pass those around in the locker room who didn't get indicted. Anyway, and that sort of opened the door for, your Shawn Michaels to be champions. I mean, as a matter of fact, Bret's first pay-per-view title defense was against Shawn Michaels at the Survivor Series in 1992. So, he picked Michaels. I think he always knew that Michaels was to him what he was to Mr. Perfect. And, like as in, right, this guy's coming after me. And Perfect broke his back, so that might not be the best analogy. Maybe Randy Savage. Bret was like, I'm coming after Savage. Michaels is coming after me. There'll be someone coming after Michaels. So, Bret knew that. Bret knows that. not a problem at this time. They were all friends, and Michaels was well chuffed that Bret won the title because we are ushering in a new era, and Michaels is the Intercontinental Champion. I think people seem to forget that they really went on this big crusade to change wrestling in '92 and '93, with those two being the champions. Having completely different style matches than we're used to, and trying to get the different fan base. And everyone's like, oh, wrestling was pants, but Rumble '93 still drew 17,000 fans. WrestleMania drew 17,000 fans. King of the Ring drew 10,000 fans. SummerSlam drew 23,000. Survivor Series drew at 19,000. There's still big numbers on their pay-per-views without, predominantly without Hulk Hogan or, Randy Savage or anyone like that. And Ultimate Warrior, Legion of Doom and all that. That's a massive difference. If you look at SummerSlam 92 card to SummerSlam 93 card, it's astronomically different. So I think, the fact that he was trusted enough at a really bad time for the company when, he could have stuck the title on The Undertaker. You could have. Mm-hmm. You could have kept Savage away from retirement. There were some people there that could have put the title on. $1 Million Man could have had the title. I know people say, really? But yeah, he could have. He was over as a heel. So I think to give it to him and to start that new trend and open up the doors to people like Michaels, I think that's something that everybody seems to forget. And you know what? Everybody's career might be different had Bret not got that opportunity, and had he not made a bit of a success about it. We spoke on previous shows where actually his second title run in '94, he pretty much keeps the company alive, him and Undertaker, on house shows anyway. So Bret, the first sort of small champion, most respected champion, and in a really dark time he kept the light switched on, which got respect for. Again, it's all kind of respect really. And again, in terms of a match, I've pointed out that Shawn Michaels match, that first title defence, but of course you can't take anything away from the SummerSlam match in '94 against Owen Hart in the steel cage. Again, SummerSlam '94, 22,000 fans. That's still big numbers, big numbers. He drew at a bad time. So actually, imagine what he could have done in a good time.
I think what I take from your point in terms of that situation, most of all, is the fact that, and rightly so, perhaps something I wasn't necessarily acutely aware of, but without Bret, you don't have Shawn, if that makes any sense. That's my interpretation.
Potentially.
You don't have a Shawn world title run, or Shawn doesn't have the career he does and that career trajectory without the steroid gate, without Bret taking over and running with the ball, and not just running with it, but running really, really well with it. Making a smaller guy world title reign meaningful and legendary. And without that happening, maybe this doesn't happen for Shawn. So.
I mean, you're right. You can't take away from the steroid gate, but had Bret failed, and people will argue
they would
whether
have just stuck it back on, or stuck it on Nash, or stuck it on Hall, or stuck it back on Hogan.
Well, who knows? But I mean, I think the fact that they trusted him enough in the first place to try, when, like I say, they could have chucked it on Taker. They could have chucked it. I know it's crazy. Could have chucked it on Earthquake, $1 Million Man. Yeah. There were a few people there that had still been around long enough that if Vince wanted a household name from the bygone era, he could have stuck it on. So you just don't know. But it's Steroid Gate. I'm not taking anything away from Steroid Gate. I'm not saying, oh my God, thank God for Bret Hart. Nothing would have ever happened. Steroid Gate made it happen for both of them. But at the same time, I think they both contributed very well as being world and Intercontinental champion at the time.
Very much so. I will, for this point, again, I'm going in chronological order, to sort of mimic a little bit of what you're doing with regards to moving through his career. I'm going to take from WrestleMania 21, obviously. You knew I probably had this in the locker. It's got to be WrestleMania 21. It's 2005 and it's Kurt Angle. The build to this match was so crazy. To give you an idea, we alluded to it in, I think it's our best entrances video. Sexy Kurt. When you've got Kurt Angle coming out with Sensational Sherry and doing it an excellent version, his own version of Sexy Boy. he's just a sexy Kurt. He's going to make your ankle hurt. And it's fucking amazing. And then you've got things like, I think, isn't there a bit where Shawn responds in a Raw episode or an episode later on? He says, "Kurt, I've been stealing the show since you were winning gold medals in your silly little singlet," or something like that. He says something to that effect.
Yeah.
And it's like, boom, mic drop. Like, Jesus Christ, these boys weren't pulling any punches. And
such a good
the build was excellent. You knew it was going to be special because you had... Here is Shawn Michaels. He's come back from his injury. He's had a few years now of having excellent matches with people like Hunter, with people like RVD, with people like Shelton Benjamin, most famously with that ridiculous super kick. And here he is at WrestleMania 21, and it's Kurt Angle. And what can you say? Kurt Angle's the wrestling machine, and they were always going to have an amazing match. And then you throw in the fact that I think Shawn does a moonsault which misses, right? From the ring to the table?
Kind of, yeah.
He basically doesn't.
Yeah.
Did he do a number on the table or something? I can't remember.
He's, he does that more... He does the same moonsault, but the one where the springboard moonsault off the middle rope onto Angle on the table hits, and that's perfect, and that's really good.
I'm thinking of the Flair one that misses.
The Flair one. But later in the match with Angle, he does a normal moonsault to the outside, off the post, and he Angle kind of swipes him away, and then Angle gets him in an Angle slam, and Angle slams his leg into the ring post on the outside. That's a good little sequence. So, so he kind of hits a moonsault and misses a moonsault, to answer your question.
Yeah. But, like, even down to, like, whoever produced that match, presumably it was both of them combined, but they had amazing ideas to Angle slam someone into the ring post with their leg. Like, new stuff, new things being thrown out. I think it was it wasn't the first time we saw Kurt Angle use the grapevine on the ankle lock to win a match. No. Obviously we saw it with Brock Lesnar, but like, it was just such an amazing match. Like, in a card where you also had Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, you had 21.
Taker and Randy Orton.
Taker and Randy Orton.
The first ever Money in the Bank.
First ever Money in the Bank. This show was stacked.
Batista, Triple H, John Cena, JBL.
Cena and JBL, which was kind of shit. But yeah,
it was a stacked. It was an amazing WrestleMania. It's one of my favourites. Yeah.
But this match is by far the best match on the card, as far as I'm concerned. And it is a very close 1A and 1B with Eddie and Ray, but this was crazy. And
it was a great match.
I think it points to Shawn's ability to work with anyone, with any style, because Kurt is about as different a wrestler as you can be from Hunter and from Razor.
Oh yeah, intensity. I mean, he's real. It's the real deal. There's no getting away from that.
So that's my reasoning for including this match and this program, because I just thought, wow, iconic, subjective to me. This is the thing I point to as being one of Shawn's best ever matches.
Oh yeah,
So
I completely agree, mate. I mean, I remember watching that Mania live, actually, and I remember just the only thing I was upset about is that's the first time Michaels wore his leather pants and not his tights, and I remember going, I don't like that. I don't like that. Because I knew it was symbolising we were on the road to the end, because I was like, he's wearing double knee braces now, so he can't have his tights on, he needs trousers, and I just remember thinking, I'm not ready for the end, he's only just come back. But yeah, great, man. I mean, it stole the show, and I think I don't know if I said on a different video, or...
We might have said it on our best WrestleManias or something.
Yeah, or if I said it to you just off camera. That that match, Michaels is getting people, legends ringing him up afterwards, telling him it's one of the greatest matches they've ever seen, and yet it didn't get 5 stars. What an absolute load of rubbish. So, no, fantastic match, mate. Can't argue it. Can't argue it at all. Loved it.
I shall take this moment to segue into my 4th point. And it is another match, another program, and I believe I'm right in saying, I will just check. Sorry, put the music over the top of this while I find out. But I'm pretty sure there was a match in the UK in 2007, April 23rd, a few weeks after, or the day after their match at WrestleMania 23, where John Cena and Shawn Michaels wrestled for 58.5 minutes in front of a sold-out crowd in the UK.
Yeah, London,
and
Raw.
tore the fucking house down.
They did.
And put on, and I believe I'm right in saying, is that a 5-star match?
I think it was, and
I think it was either a 5 or a 4.5 star.
So the interesting thing about that, well, there's a couple of things I don't want to take away. You finish.
Well, what I was going to say is, obviously, my biggest take from this, we've talked about John Cena at great length recently, about his 17 and etc, etc. Whether you like him or hate him, you can't knock his contribution, but you can question his ability to have a match. This match was Shawn Michaels dragging John Cena to the greatest match he not only had up to that point, but probably one of the greatest matches he's ever going to have in his entire career. I don't want to sound confrontational with it. I can't think of a situation where Bret worked with someone who physically couldn't wrestle and dragged them to a 5-star match. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you put Bret in with Goldberg and you're getting a retirement, unfortunate. You put Bret in with Hogan, you're getting Bret versus Hogan. It's still a Hogan match. But you put Shawn in with John, you're not getting a John Cena match. You're getting a Shawn Michaels-led John Cena match. Do you know what I mean? I don't want it to sound confrontational.
No.
But it's just
think
like,
you're right.
to me, that's the separation.
No, I get you. The only thing I would say to that is Cena can work, right? So I would equate that to I would equate that to Bulldog, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say Bret and Bulldog would mirror to a degree that analogy because
in London.
Yeah, interesting fact. Maybe it's something to do with London, but of course, you know, both Bret and Shawn have had stinkers. You know, Shawn's had tough matches with people like the Great Khali. Didn't have a great match with the Big Show. You know, Vader's match wasn't great. Bret's had not great matches. You know, with Isaac Yankem, certain wrestlers. You know, that just don't click. So I mean, it does happen. But yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about that is that was supposed to be a double main event Raw. It was supposed to be Edge versus Randy Orton, even though they were tag partners, and it was John Cena versus Shawn Michaels, even though they were tag team partners. But John Cena gone out the night before with Ric Flair and got massively pissed. So Vince McMahon put Michaels and John Cena on first and didn't tell them they were going to go an hour, but obviously told Michaels, and the match had to carry on, and the Edge Randy Orton match never happened.
Got bumped. Yeah.
But yeah, no, again, can't argue, mate. It was one of the best matches on Raw. Earl's Court, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't in the O2 days, this one. It was cool.
No, back in the day. Yeah, back in the day.
Lord Alfred Hayes. But yeah, so that's my point to that. I mean, when I say program, obviously I would like to include the build and the reasoning behind WrestleMania 23, the sort of uncertainty over WrestleMania 23 with regards to that match. Obviously, that match ended in such a strange fashion, and then with no handshake, no respect, doesn't know if it's a work or a shoot. There was definitely something going on there, and again, whether that was Shawn being petulant or just doing great character work, I have no idea. I'm going to choose the latter.
I think the rumour was he wasn't happy with how Cena didn't sell the leg.
It was the knee, wasn't it? He wasn't selling the leg, and then obviously he won with the STF, which is a leg-based move, so it's fair.
But anyway, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
No,
yeah, there you go.
My number 4 point?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my number 4 point. It's hard to beat the showstopper, so you can't. But what I always thought about Bret is that reality-based always thought that made him, or gave him the ability to be probably the best storyteller. He could really tell a story from the start of a match to an end. He took you on a journey all the way through it. Might not like it, might not have found it entertaining, but you could see where they were going. Everything made sense, but there was still plenty of surprises in matches. You know, some of the things you take for granted nowadays, Bret did it first. You know, really did the first proper table bump, for example. You know, and there's just lots of cool the figure four around the ring post, all these kind of things. But it wasn't necessarily Bret having to do the move; it was Bret allowing the move to be done to him.
Yeah.
You know, Isaac Yankem leg dropping him in. off hanging across the top rope. Some incredible moves he let Hakushi do, but nobody else did. So they kind of link together the fact that I think he's one of the best storytellers you've ever had, but he could also make everybody else look better in that match as well. So some examples of that are, again, we touched on it with the 88 SummerSlam match, but actually if you look at the 1990 2 out of 3 Falls SummerSlam match with Demolition, he's in there with Smash and Crush. Crush is a rookie. You watch that match, it's a main event tag match. That could have been the last match of the show. And the crowd go nuts, and Roddy Piper at the end shouts down the microphone, "What a match!" Because it was the story, the journey you took them on. You never thought the Hart Foundation were going to beat Demolition. The British Bulldog at SummerSlam. Can't say that you'd never thought he'd have a good match with Mr. Perfect, because obviously you know that's going to happen. But made Bulldog look 100 times better than anyone has ever managed to do. Really, Bulldog's only properly worked with the Hart Foundation. They had some good tag matches with people like the Rougeos, but then Shawn Michaels in 92 and 96 and 95 made Yokozuna look better than anyone had made him look up to that point. Jerry the King Lawler. What should be a 5-star match for the title against the 1-2-3 Kid on Monday Night Raw in 94. Razor Ramon. The Hakushi match in Your House 5, where everyone's like, Bret's not even important at this point. Diesel's the champ, Michaels is the Intercontinental champ. No one cares about Bret, but he's still out there having 5-star matches with Jean-Pierre Lafitte. I mean, they're not 5-star matches because they weren't given 5 stars, but
they're very good.
They're the match they're the story of the of that show. That match told the best story on that card and made the person look better. Diesel had his best match with Bret. 2 of his best matches with Bret by a mile. Undertaker. He took the Undertaker zombie character and made it look believable, not only in 96 and 97, but in 1991. There's a little nuance he does in 91, so Taker is pure no-selling at this point. And Bret's, I think, did 3 moves in a row. So it would have been side Russian legs, inverted atomic drop, side Russian leg sweep, backbreaker. Went to the second rope to do an elbow and Taker sitting up. And Bret just is on the second rope and he just goes, "Oh, Jesus." And you're just like, that's incredible. It's not about, the thing about it is, I know everybody says it's all about Bret, but it really wasn't. It was about putting on the best show. So yeah, fantastic storyteller and making everybody else look better. I've kind of linked those two together, and like I say, go and watch SummerSlam 1990, SummerSlam 92, SummerSlam 91. Watch some fantastic matches from Raw. The 1-2-3 Kid match is absolutely incredible. In Your House 1 against Hakushi is incredible. Survivor Series 95 against Diesel, no holds barred. Bret goes for a table, first real table spot. Andy's matches with Michaels. WrestleMania 12, it's a long watch, but it's a great match. And the Montreal match is a great match. I've omitted a match, but that's my point number 5, so I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, very believable, very good storyteller, made everybody else look better.
I think what I take from that, for me, is how I relay that to Shawn, perhaps.
Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
Shawn burned really bright, and he was never afraid to be the best one in the ring. And he knew he was the best one in the ring, and he didn't have any beans with proving it. And it didn't matter to him whether he made anyone else look bad or good, as long as he looked better than everything else you saw. Bret, from what I understand, and from the way that you're positioning it as to me, Bret didn't want that. Bret almost didn't want to be the best. The best there is, the best there was. He wanted to make everyone better. Like, he wanted to drag everyone along with him to good matches up and down the card. Like, yeah. I'm up here, you're here, come join me up here.
You've got
I'm not gonna out wrestle you by this much just so you can get to here. I'm gonna stay here being me, and you will gradually meet me here, and then we'll move on together. Like that bit you said about Taker. The bit you said about Taker because I think Taker says it in one of the 6 Feet Under podcasts. Yeah. He goes about how he loved Bret for doing that. Like, it was so underrated how much character work Bret did for Taker to legitimize Taker coming off of that weird title reign he had over Hogan. And it's like, there's Hogan putting over the big man, but then complaining about his neck being jacked up. Meanwhile, a couple of years later, Bret's sitting on the corner and thinking, for fuck's sake, how am I going to beat this guy? And it's like
Exactly.
small intricacies like that
But who
just
does
did
that?
so much for the character.
But at the time, you watch that, and he's making Taker. But
Yeah,
now you look back at it
massively.
and you go, "Oh, it made him as well." But you just didn't. It's
You didn't
so
think of that
subtle.
way. Yeah.
No, you just took it. You took. I think Brett, on a whole, was just taken for granted,
Mm.
and
I think I kind of
it
agree.
it's yeah. And it's, do you know what? I equate it to everything in life. He's like the B grade student, or the guy at work that just gets everything done. You know, it's like you leave him alone and he just gets everything done, and you expect it of him, and he doesn't
Hmm.
shout about it. Whereas every now and again, some kid comes along and shouts how good they
Gets an
are.
A star and tells everyone
Yeah,
how brilliant they are,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
shits the
yeah.
bed and kills the
Goes
dog.
back to doing what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yes, so go on then.
But it's your point five, mate. So you carry on with your final point if you wish.
Yeah, okay. Well, my last point really leads straight on from that, and that is the fact that not only does Brett, fantastically put by you, um, in, and I agree. It's, I'm here, everyone's coming up to me, but I'm not going to force them. I'm going to make it, because I'm going to tell a story so that by the end of it, everybody believed that was possible. So how can you fight the 1-2-3 kid one week and then Yokozuna another week? How do you
Hmm.
make that believable? How do you make
Yeah.
wrestling a 200-pound guy and a 550-pound guy believable? No one thinks about this, but at a
Mm.
crazy time in wrestling when he was having to fight plumbers and Christ, I mean, this is it. He was not in there for a lot of the time with great people, but when he did get in the ring with great people, then even greater things happened. And the WWE Hall of Famer Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I've said this on previous videos before, has clearly said there would be no Austin if it wasn't for Brett. Brett went to Vince and said, "You need to get Austin." Back in '94, when the opportunity came along and he came in as the ringmaster, Brett was on his way out to take a 6-month break, but he still worked with Austin. They did a few house shows, and Michaels got interested in this, which was
Hmm.
good. And Michaels did a classic match with the ringmaster just before WrestleMania 12, really, really good. And yeah, Michaels loved Stone Cold and was really looking forward to his character being built so that they could fight and make money later. But of course, he's the champion. So at that time, he had a different story. That's fine. Brett had gone off. He'd had a different story. But when Brett came back, he picked Austin to wrestle because we needed to make this guy. We needed to make new stars. And I think people just seem to forget that, Austin was fighting Mark Mero.
Hmm.
He wasn't on SummerSlam '96. He wasn't on In Your House after that. He'd sort of fought Savio Vega. If you look back, his 1996 wasn't great. He won the King of the Ring, but then what did he do? He wasn't even at SummerSlam. Imagine that
Mm.
nowadays. So it wasn't a foregone conclusion. Everybody knew what Austin could do, but could he be a main eventer? And could he do it in black boots? Brett comes back in November, gives him the best match he has in his WWE career up to that point, and between that November and WrestleMania 13, he's made him into a main eventer. He's won the
Hmm.
Royal. Austin's won the Rumble. He's gone from not being on SummerSlam at all to winning the '97 Royal Rumble, and then arguably stealing the show and really being in the real main event of WrestleMania 13, and then a pay per view after that, he's fighting Taker for the title.
Why did Austin? Sorry, this is probably for another video. Why did Austin, if he won the '97 Rumble, not challenge for the world title?
Because he'd been eliminated, but the refs didn't see it, and he got back in the
Oh.
ring and eliminated Taker, Vader, and Brett illegally. So they made the first ever Final Four pay-per-view in February, where the the illegally eliminated people by Austin, would be put into a match with Austin, and it was a weird
Oh.
Fatal Four-way. It was an elimination match where you could win by pin, submission, or the Royal Rumble rule,
Thrown out.
thrown over the top rope. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, they all went out over the top rope. Um, yeah, and then Brett won. But then the next night on Raw, he lost the title to Sid because they wanted Taker and Sid at WrestleMania for the title. And I was like, well, why not just put Sid, like, if Michaels has forfeited the title, why make the Fatal 4-Way for the title? Why not have Sid? Anyway, it all got a bit clusterfucked because Vince shit himself because Nitro was just pounding them at this point, and
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect had just left and gone to WCW as well, and they thought he was going to show up on the Nitro that is it after WrestleMania? Yeah, it all got very messy. That build
Yeah,
up
I
to
was
WrestleMania
just
13.
trying to think about a reason why a Rumble winner wouldn't get a world title shot. I literally I couldn't picture that in my head, and that makes I understand now.
No,
So I don't
that's what
think I
it
was watching
was.
WWE at the time. So yeah,
No, that's a great Rumble though.
yeah. Sorry,
Austin's
I
great in it.
interrupted your point.
So that's it for me. He's basically he's real, he's legitimate. There's respect, there's tradition. He's fought from the bottom up. He's a really good storyteller. He kept the lights on when probably no one else could. He made everybody else look better, and he made the biggest star the company's ever known. It's just so hard to argue with that. And he, like I said, he made other people look better than him all the time. It's just so hard to take away. I've just got it's just such a high level of respect, I think, is what it is, and I can't knock him off the perch.
So I will round off this video with my final point, and you will accuse me of cheating because it's actually 2 matches, and you'll probably be able to guess which 2 matches I'm
I know
going
where
to
we're
mention.
going with this.
The famous 24th anniversary of the first WrestleMania that they stupidly dubbed the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, and the actual 25th anniversary of WrestleMania, which they stupidly dubbed the WrestleMania 26.
Yeah.
It's the duo of matches with The Undertaker. Now, if you want to talk about a pair of matches 1 year apart that define not only 2 men's careers but an era of wrestling, I think you have to point to these 2 matches. Yes, the matches between Taker and Hunter were good as well, and the end of an era match of 28 was excellent. Overbooked nonsense, that match. But these 2 were just... let's
Pure.
go out, let's tear it up. Let's face each other. Let's do something we haven't done basically since 1997.
They really were the
hadn't
end of an era matches, weren't they?
Yeah,
They really were.
They were. But they hadn't, to my knowledge, the whole time Shawn was back on WWE programming from 2002 onwards, he'd been on Raw, and Taker had been on SmackDown. So the interactions between the 2 of them would be very, very limited. Raw Rumbles, maybe a Survivor Series here or there.
A couple of Raw Rumbles.
Nothing one-on-one.
No.
And it was a case of, okay, so realistically, these 2 wouldn't have faced each other since probably Bad Blood or later on that year.
Oh,
or
God,
no,
yeah.
Raw Rumble 97.
Rumble 98, Rumble 98 with the back, yeah.
Yeah. So the last time these 2 faced each other was Shawn breaking his back. The time before that, or a few times before that, would have been Hell in a Cell. Yep. So that's a crazy period of time to think. And then to think what these 2 achieved over those 2 matches. The builds to the 2 matches were phenomenal. I am in the rare camp of thinking that the WrestleMania 26 match actually had the better build, because I love Placebo's version of running up that hill, but I also love the build in general, with the Shawn saying during the Slammies, if I can't beat you, or I know I can beat you, Taker, let's run it back again. And then, the character work during the Rumble that year when he
doesn't win, he gets eliminated.
Scrapping for the ropes.
Oh yeah, they're both masterpieces, aren't they?
So the matches themselves, short of Taker nearly killing himself, that's still pretty damn iconic, and missing Juice by a million miles. Juice Snooker, Sim Snooker.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I think they point to a period of time in wrestling we will not likely see again, where you've got 2 of the greatest characters in the industry, to certainly one of the best 3 workers, or 2 of the best 3 workers, bell to bell, we probably saw in the industry during that period of time as well. Do something that no one expected them to do, and just tore the fucking house down both times.
100%.
And yeah, that's my best case for making Shawn number 1A.
No, I get, mate. I totally get that. I think for me as well, though, what I would say is Bret never got that opportunity, because I think we got robbed of that. And I think it's crazy to think really that Vince was like, I can't deal with both of them, so we're going to let one of them go. And in November of 97, Bret goes, and in January of 98, Michaels breaks his back. And and he doesn't wrestle for 4 years, and you just think to yourself, Christ, the matches we've missed because Bret went to WCW and then ultimately got hurt. We didn't get
Bill
Bret.
fucking Goldberg.
We didn't. Yeah, but we didn't get. I mean, really, Bret dropping the title at WrestleMania 14 to Austin would have been phenomenal. Not that Michaels wasn't, but he's in a bad back. But again, if that was built Tyson, Hart, Austin, that still would have been incredible. Better matches with Mick Foley, better matches with Taker, especially when he stops being the zombie. Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, all Jericho, and who knows, legendary matches he could have had at WrestleMania again with Michaels and with Taker again. So we kind of got robbed of that. I think it's just rose tinted glasses are great because Michaels got this incredible fairy tale send off, and because Bret didn't, he kind of got a car crash send off. It's such a shame. It's just such a shame, and I think sometimes that people sometimes only remember the good stuff, don't they?
It's horrible to think that somewhere there's maybe a alternative universe where Montreal doesn't happen. Bret still goes to WCW, but Montreal. Well, okay, let's say.
No, he could do, but then he comes back.
Let's say there's an alternative universe where everything happens exactly as it did, except Bret doesn't get kicked in the head by Bill Goldberg. And eventually, in 2001, when
he'd have been back
WCW
anyway.
folds, he comes back to WWE and has amazing matches with everyone you just said. And then in 2002, Shawn comes back from his back injury, healed, recovered, clear in mind, clear in faith, clear in belief, and says to Bret, cards on the table, we fucked up. We fucked up with Montreal. Let's clean slate it. Let's go and have some fucking hella matches together. Bit like,
what actually did happen, but without Bret being able to have the matches. Yeah.
But it's a bit like the way that Hunter and CM Punk have sort of interacted now. There's a mutual respect there that they understand that the people they were years ago are not the people they are going forward. And I think we were robbed of that. And I don't particularly blame Bill Goldberg. But if I was going to blame anyone, I'd blame Bill Goldberg.
I would blame Bill Goldberg. Yeah,
Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg. That's a great. I told you, didn't I? I told you how funny it was.
It's a great video.
But yeah, so Bret 1A, Michaels 1A, B.
I still won't be. I still can't convince my internal heart that Bret is 1A. I still think Shawn's 1A just on match quality, but what we can do, Dave, is because we're doing this for YouTube, we can let our commenters, our viewers, and our fans
tell us who do you prefer,
make the decision for us, Bret or Shawn, and don't just let Fraz come in and say because of God Boy, Bret wins, right?
Oh no!
Make sure you make your voices heard, and we'll find out.
100%. I think that is a fantastic idea, and just to give you a bit of added bonus, I know I spoke about the Hart Foundation quite a bit, but the Rockers were a great tag team, by the way, Andy. And if you want to go back and watch them versus the Orient Express at the Rumble 1991, and their opening match with Haku and the Barbarian at WrestleMania 7, so for some older viewers who because WrestleMania 10 launched him, don't get me wrong, but he was around a bit before and he had some great matches. So go back, some older people, go back and watch some of those matches if you want to compare the Hart Foundation and the Rockers.
Very good. Well, everyone, thank you so much. It's been a good hour. Me and Dave have gone on this little journey, and I've loved it, actually, to be honest with you. I've really enjoyed it. If you've had fun with us tonight, please drop a like. Share this video, subscribe to the channel with your bells on, drop us a comment, and tune back into Holla if you hear me each week for wrestling content. We do this for our own enjoyment, but hey, if we can get somewhere with it as well, it'd be great. Like I said earlier, next week we'll be back with Fraz, but for now, from myself and Dave, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Dave. Take care, have a great weekend. Cheers.